platform where we discuss issues confronting Africa. In recent years, Ghana has become very famous in the world with its financial failures, and we need to look into its regulatory systems and its enforcement services. Discussing these issues, I have with me Mr. Kwejo Frimpong, a governance regulatory expert with extensive expertise with UK banks and Switzerland banks. And also I have Dr. Prince Boache, a medical practitioner with interest in Africa development. Welcome, gentlemen. Okay, so Mr. Kwesi Frimpong, from your expertise view, what do we deem as a financial crime?
My understanding of financial crime is quite broad. It's not just one thing. Many people think, or I have had interactions with people, and they think that maybe fraud is financial crime, or maybe corruption is financial crime. Yes, all those things are financial crime. Financial crime is quite broad. We have money laundering offenses, which are all financial crime. Terrorism finance, I believe we heard about September 11th. You know, that how terrorists are, financed is financial crime. Money laundering, which I'll break down a bit in the sense that when we say laundering, it means cleaning something, to make it what?
Clean.
Nicer than it used to be. So that means something was dirty and now we are making it clean. And it's not just clean, we are trying to even hide the fact that it came from something that was terrible or say illegal. So that is the aspect of money laundering. Then we have fraud, we have market abuse. Those are quite specific. It's to a particular audience, especially those who are in the financial instruments or financial, stock markets. Then we have insider dealing. Those two things do come hand in hand. But then in Africa, our problem, or what we see day to day or we hear about day to day, is corruption, bribery. You see, many of us have anecdotal evidence of policemen or people in state institutions receiving bribes or taking bribes. All these are aspects of financial crime.
Okay. Right, Dr. Prince Boache, in your view, what would you also classify as financial crime, or what is actually happening in Ghana or in Africa? What financial crime activity?
Well, the expert has given a very broad overview of what financial crime is. I'm not an expert. I'm a medic. I spend all my time in the hospital, so I don't really have much to say about that. But with my layman's knowledge, I think we all know that we have financial institutions in all countries, and there are financial institutions governing all monetary dealings in this world. Now, these institutions make laws and rules and regulations for everyone to follow. Any financial dealing that goes against these rules, regulations, and laws are what I think termed as financial crime. So if there's a law that says before you bring money from Ghana to the UK, you need to declare how much money you have on you. But you get to the airport, you don't show them how much money you have, or you didn't include that in whatever information you gave to them, but you decide to bring the money to the UK. That is a financial crime.
It is.
Now, if you operate a bank, and according to the law, any amount of money, or if a certain amount of money exceeds a certain threshold, is deposited into an account, the body that regulates that bank needs to look into that person's history to find out where they're making that money from. The source of that income needs to be known to that bank. Now, if the bank fails to do that, the bank has committed a financial crime, even though the money might have come from a very legal source, but it's the duty of the bank to look into where that money is coming from. And to me, if the bank fails to do that, that is a financial crime.
Thank you for that. Let me come to you, Mr. Frimpong. Once again, I'm going to ask you, do we even have regulation systems at all in place in Ghana? Do we have such a thing?
Oh yeah, we have a very robust in terms of laws, Ghana has so many laws that covers almost every aspect of our life. But it's only when something has happened that we actually know that, so we have such and such a law that regulates this particular activity. So I'll say that Ghanaian lawmakers are quite good in terms of actually coming out with laws. But the problem we have in Ghana and Africa in general is not just the making of laws, but it's about enforcement and implementation. Right. So that is where the issues or problems we have right now are coming from. But just to add to what Doc was saying before, that a bank which does not check certain things, you see, those things are themselves not a crime, but it's part of a chain of events, So banks have what we call reporting obligations, and there are different officers in banks, like money laundering reporting officers, compliance and risk people, who have to do all these things. So banks, when they are faulted, are sometimes fined, and they get their names in the newspapers and all that. So those things pose reputational risk to banks. There are so many things that involve financial crime. He's actually touched on something, but reporting obligations are also part of it. And if you notice what is happening in Ghana right now in terms of, if I'm to mention names of banks that have gone through all these things, there are directors of banks who have been taking loans from the banks, and so many things are not right. And those aspects, we call them related party transactions, and all these things must be reported. So reporting or telling your regulator this is such that we've done. Most banks or some people try to hide these things. They don't tell their regulators. All these things are part of.
Okay, Doc, the expertise view, that means we have really regulations in place. But to me, based on what he just said, I can tell we have an issue here. The issue being the corporate governance of our banks and its enforcement supervision doesn't actually work. Do you have an idea why we have regulations in place, but these regulations doesn't function?
I think the reasons why these regulations don't function, I believe is multifactorial. African politics has a lot to do with that. We all know that certain individuals in the country, by the sheer fact that they do have godfathers in the system, do certain things wrong, and instead of them being penalized, their godfathers come in and stop that action being taken. We do also have situations where politicians make massive promises, and when they come to power, instead of being strong and firm about making sure that certain things happen, certain actions occur due to certain promises. I'll give you an example. In Ghana, a party like the incumbent government, NPP, was voted in power in 2017. Creating jobs was one of their main manifesto promises, that they were going to make sure that every single university graduate gets a job.
Get employed.
Okay. Now, here's the situation. He comes into power. The jobs are not being created. He made a promise that he's going to create a factory in every district. But that is a massive thing to do. Okay.
But that thing is ongoing.
Then,
it's an ongoing.
I know.
Right.
They actually work. They're doing really, really well, trying to achieve that promise. I know it will come to fruition.
So, what connection has that got to do with the financial?
I'm building my points. I'm building my points, and because of that, as you said in your introduction, that so many banks defaulted, and they were not meeting the regulatory procedures and things like Menzgold. Okay, all these organizations create jobs. Okay,
they do, right?
They do create jobs. No matter how you see these things, no matter how poor these banks were operating, that was where some key individuals in the country were making getting their bread.
But before you go on,
now,
creating jobs, which I do perfectly understand, but if a job must be created, must we not use the right procedures?
Of course, we need to use the right procedures.
The fact that you want to create jobs and give other people jobs to fulfill your political ambition doesn't mean you just jump in and
let me just land. Taking an action that should have occurred years ago will mean that certain companies are going to be closed down. Now, closing down these companies will mean that a lot of individuals are going to lose their jobs. Now, you haven't built these factories yet. You haven't started some of them even. Now, closing all these companies down will mean that thousands and thousands of people... So must we have to allow
companies to function even though we know we have set of rules and regulations and these companies are not following it?
That's why I said the reasons are multifactorial. Now, because you want to deal or tackle a certain problem, tackling that problem will also mean that causing a problem somewhere.
That's right.
That also means that you're going to stop another individual from working. As a government, I will be very hesitant in taking such decision.
Okay, that is your opinion. That's your thought. But hold on, Mr. Kwesi. I'm going to come back to you now. Right. These companies or these banks and so on, government collapsing them means some people are going to lose their jobs, right? But at the end of the day, we should also bear in mind the ordinary Ghanaian citizens always fall as the victims of the situation. Somebody getting a job and somebody's money going down the drain, probably they might not ever recover it, right? Right?
Can I say something, right? Just in
addition, right?
To support or to disagree with what you're saying.
Okay,
right?
go on, Mr. Frimpong.
Let's say, let's compare financial crisis, right? Ghana has actually not gone through a financial crisis, as far as we are aware.
So what is happening in Ghana now? Well, how would you consider what is happening in Ghana? Right.
Is a case of I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Let me put it down in simple terms, right? In Ghana, you see, tax evasion is also a financial crime. Let me just be blunt on that point. You see, Ghana, let's ask ourselves, how many people pay taxes?
I think KK is shifting the
argument. No, I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming to something. I'm going to be. How many people pay taxes in Ghana? It's not more than 50%.
No, that isn't going to work because we don't have a system on how we collect our taxes.
I'm coming. It's part of it. It's part of financial system. You see, I'm coming. If 50% of the people don't pay taxes, I'm not definite on that figure. I'm just giving an example. 50% of the people don't pay taxes, right? But all these taxpayers or people who are eligible to pay taxes actually vote politicians in. Okay? These politicians come in and they are corrupt, which we've all agreed corruption is part of financial crime. Okay? So these people promise you jobs. You don't pay your taxes. How are they going to fulfill the promises? They can't. So it's more of a case that, okay, you guys are not paying your taxes, and knowing that is a moral thing, right? You cannot then question these politicians when they go wrong. So they are being corrupt. Banks are not doing the right thing. Banks are getting licenses through corrupt means.
So okay. if they do, then what is the essence of the regulatory
the question is,
system that we have in place?
Who got the guts? Because the electorate are actually the ones who have to make the politicians accountable. They don't, because they are not paying taxes. The politicians who are meant to do the right thing are not doing it. The banks who are also part of the system and are meant to be part of, say, they are financial intermediaries. If they go wrong, yeah, instead of collapsing a bank, you are scared of your votes. You understand what I mean? So it's like a cycle. Everyone is trying to not do the right thing.
So if that's the case, then we have a problem.
We have a problem.
That is when a problem. So
that's why I said
the issues we have in our country, we have all the perfect laws. You see, lack of enforcement is an issue. Implementation is an issue. But let's ask ourselves. Let's just forget about the regulation, for instance. We know they are there. But enforcement and the implementation, what is the problem? It's culture. Our culture is a problem.
Okay, Doc, let me come to you one more time. What is the essence of having a system in place or having regulatory body in place which doesn't function?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I wouldn't say it doesn't function. Okay, it's a progress. It's a progress, and we haven't gotten there yet. Now, I do tell people that Ghana is one of the few countries where the legal system and the people who make our laws are very, very efficient. Okay, and that's why KK said we have fantastic laws in place. We have several bylaws and regulations in place, and these guys are doing really, really, really well. And I believe that's the first step. Now, that needs to trickle down. Okay, so they have done their bit. That needs to trickle down, and that trickling down will mean that people who fall within the middle will do their job. In some cases, we've done well. In certain key areas, we've done really, really well. Okay. Now, as I said, as KK said, it's like you scratch my back, I scratch your back, and I think that comes from that political angle that I tried to explain earlier. To get there, we need people who are committed to rule our economy. We need people who are really, 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 really interested in making sure that the middle parts of the system working to be in power. Now, when this current government came into power, they put in certain measures in place to make sure that these things are tackled. Number one, the digital addressing system. Number two, the national identification system. Number three, the TIN, which is giving every single individual a tax identification number. All these things will come together to make sure that what those in the legal sector are doing will trickle down to the next stage, which is enforcement. Now, our police, somebody mentioned a while ago that the Ghanaian police service is one of the best in West Africa. You know why? Because they have very, very minimum or limited resources, but the amount of work they do is fantastic. But because the middle parts, okay, because all these systems, the key things that I mentioned, are not in place. Now, if somebody breaks a law, okay, somebody says, oh, this individual, I saw this individual breaking the law. Please, can you please arrest them? Where do they go? You don't know where they live. Even if somebody is to give you an address to go to, you'll be, oh, go to that big tree where the watcher seller used to be. You go there, the person is not there. All these things need to be in place. So then we can actually break. We can actually break.
Because of the watcher sellers behind the tree, the policeman cannot arrest anybody.
No,
because it's very, very difficult to identify individuals. That's why I keep saying that this government has done really, really well by putting all these measures in place to make sure that the link between the lawmakers and the law enforcers are breached.
Can I let's not narrow our argument to financial regulations and financial regulations.
Let me say something, right? Talking about all the things he said and the government has done. You see, way back in 2012, Ghana decided that we're going to go biometric. You see, we were among one of the first countries in Africa to adopt the system. And the advantages of biometric electoral roll. You know, we have the UK electoral roll. You know how it works, how it helps financial services. Okay, Ghana has a nice biometric electoral register. If you turn 18 years, Ghanaians will want to vote.
So how would that support the financial sector to grow?
This is how it works. In terms of knowing what your customer is in the financial system, well, that's what we call KYC, knowing your customer. You see, everybody who has gone to vote has an address on the Electoral Commission system.
And how do you...
No, I'm coming. Everybody. Ghana, I don't know, maybe if you've never voted in Ghana. Okay, anybody. And not just that. Anybody. Let me explain this. No, I'm not done yet. There are other address systems in Ghana that maybe we don't think
No,
of.
but I don't want us to... I don't want us
we are talking about
attention to that point. I just want us to base an argument on the financial sector.
It is. Don't worry. This is a broad topic. We are talking about how to fight money laundering. It's one aspect. Let me explain something, right? My name is Kojo Kusi Frimpong. Okay.
That's your name, not my name.
No, I'm saying this. My name is Kojo Kusi Frimpong. I go and my name is on the electoral roll. They have my fingerprint and everything. That is me. It will never deviate. Any other person who goes and they are called Kojo Kusi Frimpong, they will do that biometric thing and they realize that it's not me. My date of birth will also be there, which will be different from this person's. Okay, this is how you build a banking system. Where, you know, banking is debit and credit, isn't it? You go, you take money from somewhere, we need to know where you are. If you check with Ghana Water Company, they have an address system. Electricity Company of Ghana, they have an address system. Right? UK, you come here, everybody who lives in a house has their name on a bill, right? If you go to a bank and they want to open an account, they'll ask you, where is your ID? You can take your electoral commission card, that's the proof of your ID. You can take your electoral bill to go, that is your proof of ID. Okay? You have your tax number and everything. That is also your ID. Your national insurance number, that's also an ID. Is that also? That is how you build a robust financial system, so you can identify your customers. You understand? So you go to the bank today, you want to open an account, they know where you live.
Right. You've made a clear point that. But my question,
coming to that point, you see,
that's exactly what I said.
You see, Ghana's system, why the problem with our current
is government
we try to
deal
make
with
laws for things that are already there that we can actually fine tune. You understand? If, for instance, every person, you see,
no.
You see,
you have
politics,
a point.
Taxation, and voting is what brought America into being.
Listen,
Americans fought for that thing, but in Ghana, people don't like to pay tax. Let's be honest.
They don't like to pay tax.
They don't like to pay
for
tax.
me, on this discussion, I'm interested. I'm interested in the sectors that collect people's money, and then because they are not well and fine regulated, this organization collapse, and the people become victims of the situation.
You see, when the bank collapses, there's a mechanism within the financial sector to ring fence their deposits. That is not a problem. Any bank that collapses, the customers don't go hungry. The Bank of Ghana has a mechanism to ring fence their money.
What about other financial institutions or people that act as bank, which are not well regulated? What do they get?
When you say that,
out of it?
Tell me.
Because
give me an example.
We have God is love.
They were regulated.
Happened.
DKM were regulated.
DKM.
They gave their money back.
Just to mention a few and recent saga which is ongoing. Menzgold.
You see, Menzgold is a topic on its own. Do you know why I'm saying Menzgold is a topic on its own? You see, Menzgold has done so many things that you look like, are we really serious in Ghana? From auditor, registrar general, through to SEC, Bank of Ghana. Even as we speak, there are people in Bank of Ghana who have their money invested, according to the finance minister. So how can you regulate an institution when you yourself or people who are meant to do this are conflicted? If I have my money in Menzgold, am I going to shut Menzgold down? No. When I work for Bank of Ghana? No. If they say the finance minister in parliament is saying that there are MPs who have money in Menzgold, how are they going to shut Menzgold down? Now, as we speak, this is a matter of record. I'm saying this, right? There are some police officers or ex-retired police officers or retired police officers who are suing Menzgold. Okay? There are military men or ex-military men who are suing Menzgold. And these are the gatekeepers of Ghana. Or these are the people that when things are not going wrong, you report wrongdoing to. If these people themselves, right, have their money there, then that means there's a systematic problem or systemic problem, which is a cultural thing. You see, there's a saying, you don't expect a leader to be different from the people. We are the same.
Well, so if the leaders are going blindly,
the leaders will not go blind.
Investing in.
The leaders will not go blind if the people are actually putting them into account.
With know-how are investing in companies or in sectors that they actually know are not licensed to be operate. What would the layman do? The ordinary Ghanaian.
There are laymen in Ghana who didn't invest in Menzgold.
Well, but there are a huge amount of them too. Their money is locked up in there.
According to Kokuba, how many people? 60,000. 60,000 out of 30 million Ghanaians.
I think the Menzgold.
Okay. Dr. Prince, let me come to you.
You understand?
You being let's look it up from at this angle. You being a layman,
yes,
because you're not expert with this financial brouhaha.
Yes.
If you're gonna invest your money, how would you know if the company that you're gonna invest your money is legitimate or not? How would you find out?
I'd like to answer your question, but
if you need, I can help you.
I'm not gonna ask for your help. First of all, I need to reiterate the fact that all that KK said, using the UK as an example, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that what is currently happening in Ghana wouldn't happen, is the same thing as I said. He was mentioning the addressing system. You have water bill, you have a letter from the tax office which should have your NI number on it, voters, anything with your voters voting information on there serves also as an example, and that you wouldn't be able to be lost in the system. That's exactly what the current government in Ghana is trying to do.
I don't want to limit it.
So I'm not limiting.
But the point is,
let me go back. Let me land.
Is doing, which
Listen,
to me is
let me land. Listen, let me land. When I land, you can come in.
Okay.
As I said, I mentioned one key thing. So the national identification system is going to link up with the biometric register that we already have in existence. The TIN, which is tax identification number.
We already have snake numbers.
It's going to. Let me land. Let me make my point. It's going to help with that regard. The digital addressing system would link all these three. So identifying an individual would be very easy.
Okay.
The same as it is in Ghana.
Guys,
coming back to your question. That as a layman, how will I know that a company I'm going to invest in is properly registered? Okay. Now, obviously, first of all, you need to know they need to be able to show you proof that whatever sector regulates them, they do have certification.
Let's go that proof that they were regulated by Menzgold Commission.
Wait, let me land.
But
let me land.
There's more questions to be asked.
First of all, the proof is very important. Now, after finding the proof, you should also. I will make sure that I'm aware of the fact that whatever proof they've shown me allows them to engage in whatever business they're engaging in. So if it's like Menzgold issue, if they have certification and that enables them to deal in buying and selling gold, I'll make sure that they are supposed to buy gold from the proper source.
How do you?
And also sell it by going to the regulator that issued that license to them. So let's say Minerals Commission certify them that they can actually buy gold and sell gold.
Not in Ghana, but outside.
Outside.
So why would you buy gold from Menzgold in Ghana?
Before I invest. The question was, how will I know?
No, why would you invest in Menzgold? It's not an investment company.
Okay. All right.
Wait. Invest in the layman's terms, as in dealing with them directly, as people did.
Okay, you might hold it, and then we'll continue. All right, viewers, we're gonna go for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.